Hey, so as you know, if you've been following me since 2017 when I started studying all this, you would find that I not even half of my videos are public anymore because I'd find out something new. I just a crash course in the history of photography. I mean, I studied art like drawing. I studied photography later, but there were a lot of things I didn't know and had wrong. I mean, I guess maybe I could keep them up to show that this is real. Everything I found out has been authentic, and over time, I can prove that I did not have any contact with the owner until 2017. But he did talk about it in 2009 with the juvenile instructor, and I found this picture that I think is of Joseph Smith because I compared it to the death mask, and it just really is an incredible, incredible similarity there. So, what I've done is this is an outline of the skull that I think is of Joseph Smith's. But this was buried as Hyrum Smith's skull. And you can see what is different between this and the skull that was buried as Joseph's. This was buried as Joseph's. Is that it's missing all the facial bones. But the side of Hyrum's head is intact. And so I think it was the great-grandchildren of, it wasn't the sons, it was 1920s. Alexander and Joseph Smith III probably died 10 years before this. Like a little over 10 years before they unearthed the skulls. So, I mean, of course, they weren't going to let that happen in their lifetime, but Emma did bury them and rebury them. Whether there was damage to them after, that's highly possible too. So that's why the death mask really is the best to analyze. But almost no facial bones on this skull that was, I think, is Hyrum's. It was buried as Joseph. And then this was buried as Hyrum Smith. But this guy, Joseph Lyons, thinks that it is Joseph's. And this guy, was criticized by someone I'm not going to name. I'm not even going to talk about his article or try to go into the more... Well, it was 2008 that Joseph Lyons wrote an article that I totally agree with. He is a doctor. He has taken anatomy and physiology. I've taken at A&P 2 levels. I didn't even need the second level. That was like what you need really for like nursing. To be a CMA, which is what I am. But, doctors go further than that, so they really know bones and they know tissue, they know skin. And so in probably around 2018, I started analyzing Hyrum's skull. And the thought entrance and exit wounds kept coming into my head, and I just couldn't stop looking at his death mask and analyzing it every which way. And I think I was just barely finding out stuff about Elisha Bibbins and J.S. Bibbins and where they lived and going, holy crap, I've at that point I'd owned it like 6 months, and then I find out, wait a minute, where it was printed, that's where the Sons lived. I didn't even know the Sons lived in Plano. I've taken videos down because I've figured things out in real time as I've been making video. I knew nothing, really. I knew nothing except that it matched the death mask because I'm an artist. I love drawing faces. I could see certain things. So just as an artist here, it does make no sense talking to Joseph Lyons. And then there's a person that tried to prove it this other way. This other person I have talked to, and they criticized my photo as being of Joseph Smith. But I was asking all these questions. I'm like, well, can I see your version of the death mask? Did you angle it up high, up low? The things you're saying, I think that makes a difference. Can I see what you're doing? Can we explain this and see why you think the middle of the eye, something about the middle of the eye, didn't line up with the middle of the eye on the death mask. I don't know. So, but that person, it's taken as gospel that they really, all of Utah believes that this is Hyrum's skull. It's been proven. And he criticizes Joseph Lyons, who's late Joseph Lyons. He's passed away. But this guy was a doctor. This other person's not a doctor and did not, from what I think, from everything you've studied, I know his degree, it's not, I don't think he ever needed to take A&P, and he just said that he'd studied on his own, craniofacial, measurements and things like that, which I guess sculptors do the same thing, but they're still not a forensic analyst or a doctor, but really, entrance and exit wounds, if I take this away, and I drew on top of the death mask, apologize, I'm redoing this video. But look how big that hole is where his nose is. It's so big. And then I kept looking at different versions of the death mask, and I've looked at it in person, as many of us have. That's a hole in the right side of his cheek, and I definitely think that is the entrance wound. And the reason this hole is so big on the left side of his nose, because it's an exit wound. So Willard Richards did say he was shot in the nose, but he talked after he died, and so I don't know at what point he actually was shot in the face. And so the descendants of Joseph Smith, I think great-grandchildren, that fact alone, they just knew he was shot in the head. I don't think they even knew, because there are LDS. They're not connected to Willard Richards or that account or any of that paperwork, So they thought through the head meant, getting shot through the head. There should be a hole this way, because if in this skull, this is a hole through the side of the head, whereas this one that I think is Hyrum's, that was buried as Joseph, the sides of the head are intact, but the whole face is completely damaged. So a lot of people that work with with Community of Christ now, according to this person's article in 2009, backtracked, from, it was just the 1920s, kind of give them a break, but they're saying, since they've been analyzing, they've talked to forensic analysts analyzing the scannel daguerreotype, that, they think, well, of course, this is Joseph's. This is Hyrum's, because Hyrum was shot in the face. And so Joseph Lyons just goes into the analyzing. He really gets deep into it. So this makes sense, because they're missing all these facial bones. If you shot right there, if that's an entrance wound, that's an exit wound, it would have shattered all those bones, and those would have just gone into the ground, It wouldn't have stayed connected. And then, so I'm just going with Joseph Lyons here. I agree with Joseph Lyons that this is Joseph Smith's skull. And so I'm not a forensic analyst, I watch the TV show Bones a lot. And I could move this around and try to really get the orbital bones right into there. But of course, there can be distortion and stuff like that with the death mask. But what is really interesting that I do see, of course, this is I just have an outline. But you can really see it here. That on Joseph, I'm just going to call it Joseph's skull, is the nasal bone. It just looks like it's angled and remodeled. There we go. Angling this way. And then when you look at the death mask, you really do basically see the same thing. I'm sorry for that pause there. But you do see this bump here, but I think that is that odd shape of the nasal bone. I think it is angling to the right. And then you've just got like this shape here, and you've got that nasal bone. And so when I was trying to talk, I have all these emails contacting the Community of Christ, asking, do you have a high resolution copy print of this picture? Because I was analyzing juvenile instructor and just trying to figure out, because he says in one of the comments as he's arguing and he's threatening to sue the juvenile instructor for talking bad about him and being mean and quoting him, that he's sending a high resolution copy of the picture to the church, and I thought it was Community of Christ. So I emailed them. I'm like, I emailed all these people just trying to find a high resolution copy of it. And then eventually I found the owner, and then I said, do you still have this, or do you just have like a high resolution copy? Because all I wanted to see, because if you look at my picture, and if you look at that, you really do see that bump. You really see that angle right there, where that, I think that it's that nasal bone angling to the right, and you see that the cartilage on his nose is that different shape. And this was after I talking to like the best artists. I'm not the best artist in the world, but I have studied under the person I think is the best artist in the world, and he was talking a lot about the cartilage in his nose, and I'm like, you just can't see this left nostril. That was the whole thing. I just wanted to find a high resolution copy because I wanted to see his left nostril. I'm like, if his left nostril's shaped like this and then his right nostril shaped like that, we could prove it's Joseph Smith. It's so unique, you know. I just wanted a high resolution copy of it, because you do really you do see that other nostril is shaped like this. So his left nostril is shaped differently than his right nostril. You've just got this different, whereas you got more of this round shape, kind of like his left eyebrow is so different than his right, which to me, that was what got me, were the eyebrows, you know, and the eyes. And then I started analyzing the whole face, and there's so many things that are so unique that match up. But the nose is really it. And I think that's why it's so important to me, just for my brain, because this video is just for fun, just to know that this is Joseph Smith's skull. Because it makes no sense for this to be Hyrum's. To have all of the, right where that huge hole is, that whole bone is intact, you know. And so I go with Joseph Lyons, who's taken massively more medical classes than the other person that concluded differently and criticized him, which I just don't, left a bad taste in my mouth. Yeah, that's just who I agree with. And that's why I'm saying here, just the nose. I'm really fixated on the nose. And the other thing that I do notice from analyzing my outline of the skull is the chin. And of course there is a little bit of distortion here, but you see a little bit of a dimple on the chin. So there does appear to be a little bit of a dimple, like right there. And then if I bring the death mask back, see where that dimple lands? Skull, death mask, skull, death mask. There's that dimple in his chin, just slightly. It's barely visible, but it is there. I see it. And then my picture, I think I can kind of see a little bit of something. I see sort of more of an asymmetrical dimple. I see something happening right there. See kind of an odd shape right there. But then there's all that plaster, which is kind of like weird right there. So this is what I do for fun on a Friday night. So anyway, I'm just grateful for anyone. Thank you to everyone for being patient with me. And it's been a really hard year for all of us, for everyone. I mean, we even Taylor Swift is dropping F-bombs in her music now, like it's been a hard year. So hopefully next year is better. I just still strongly believe that this is a photo of Joseph Smith. I was just sorely disappointed I couldn't do anything with it last year, and I'm hoping to do something fun and interesting this year with some people, and hopefully something fun and interesting happens, and we will just see. But I do have a friend that is really, it's like Temperance Bones, like the TV show Bones, and having talked to people that really do analyze actual bones and things like that, like you can't analyze it without unearthing the bones, as far as the bones and the skulls go. So, and I think that's why that person who was an amateur and had only studied on their own, all that, I guess that's why you have someone like that analyzing the skulls, because no one would really do it. So that's why this is just for fun. It's like an artistic viewpoint of it. I have taken A&P 1 and 2, but that doesn't make me forensic analyst, although I've been studying this for 3 years, and it is quite depressing to think, oh, I totally could have studied and gotten at least an associate's in forensics and done something and be somewhere in that field. That would have been really neat. But I didn't, because that costs money, and I don't have that much money, and then I'm spending a lot of money on this. So it would be great if something fun and interesting happens this year. So cross your fingers, pray for me, pray for my sanity, pray I can handle difficult people. But I've had to handle difficult people my entire life, so I think I'll be able to handle it, whatever happens, with something that'll be fun and super interesting. Anyway, have a good night.